Hey guys, Joe here, and today we are taking a look at a model 1911 A1 U.S. Army SDS imports firearm, and as you can see, it conforms in every way to nothing. If you're new to the channel, you like these kind of videos, why don't you go ahead and give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Use my affiliate links, it'll help the channel grow. Leave a comment, do whatever you want to. Just help the channel grow, that way we can check out fun stuff like this bad boy. Yes, this is a Deadpool edition 1911. Let's go ahead and look at the box. That doesn't say anything about what this thing is. It's just a plain cardboard box. TSOS says them that way. Says them that way, sells them that way. TSOS makes a lot of government model replica firearms. Like it says on the box, this was modeled on a 1911 U.S. Army variant. Let's take the gun out, drop the magazine, safety check it real quick. We do that by trying to rack the slide. Holy schmamoli. And we are going to visually inspect it. Look for a bullet in the chamber. I don't see one. Look for one in the ejection port. Don't see one. Look at the magazine well, and there is again nothing in it. That means this gun is safe. So before we keep going, let's go ahead and set this aside and take a look at the box. You get one magazine, you get a cleaning rod and a brush, the book, and hilariously the original GI style plain brown grips. A lot of people will choose to do that just so they don't damage the original grips. Other than that, there's nothing else in here. Funny enough, as an import, maybe it's exempt from it, or they took it out of the box, but I don't see the gun lock. All guns need to be sold with gun locks in the United States, or at least in Virginia, where I am, so hopefully that will get corrected. Let's go ahead and bring the gun back in. And as you can see, it is a red Deadpool edition gun. It's actually really nicely made in terms of the modifications they did to it. It's very interesting to take a look at, and we're going to get really up and close with it. As you can see, it clearly says that this is Deadpool's gun. It's got some nice wear, tear, and marks. These are all engraved, by the way. These are not just painted on. These are really in the finish, which is nice. Makes it look really, really used. It's got all his best phrases as well as things that you would see on, you know, kind of show-off guns. This way towards enemy, smile, wait for the flash, all that stuff. And on this side, it has some of his best-known sayings. Where's Francis? Cue the music. Chimichanga. Maximum effort. I like how they did this one with the red maximum effort. And then some more distress and wear marks, as well as the unicorn, which was from the movie. The grips are always a weak point on firearms because sometimes they'll try to run a design over them. These ones are pretty nice because they went with the black and white. Very simple, very easy. They didn't go crazy with it. It's using a Rob Liefeld or a Liefeld or a Liefeld or whatever the hell his name is version of the Deadpool character because of course he created him. Probably one of the only few things he actually did well. This being based on a A1 design is very plain. It is not a overly extravagant firearm, which kind of makes me sad because I wish they had done this to some of the more expensive ones because yes, it does have a dovetail rear sight, but it has a flat steel, just itty-bitty front sight, which means you'd have to mill out the top in order to put in newer sights, which is kind of sad because this thing would look pretty badass on a Zig 1911, for example, which SDS also manufactures with all the nice hammer and nice safeties and trigger and all that stuff. This being just a standard GI model is absolutely basic. It's got the raised rear mainspring housing, flat beaver tail. This is just a grip safety. It's not a beaver tail since it doesn't come up. Standard spurred hammer, small safety, which is fine. That doesn't matter. The the slide release, slide lock is your basic one, and the trigger, this is a pretty short one. It's not a long trigger, but it's just a solid trigger. Black barrel, nice touch, I approve of that. Yeah, that's pretty damn cool actually. Wouldn't mind owning one of these myself. They run in the 6s, depending on where you go, if you can still find them. I was going to buy one, but again, being that it's a very base model, I wouldn't be happy with it. I'd want to change too much. Like I have rear spring main housings and beaver tail grip safeties and extended competition safeties and all this stuff I could put on it, but I don't want to go through all that work on an almost $700 gun. If you just want it for display purposes, that thing would be awesome on a wall or in a rack. Just got to be careful because a kid could accidentally grab this thing thinking it's a real toy, or that's an oxymoron, a toy to be played with. Let's talk about the trigger pull. Single action, of course, 1911. Right there's where it stops at the wall, so just a little bit of pull and then brakes. It's a 1911. It's a good trigger. I'm not saying it's the best trigger in the world, but it ain't bad. Just pull straight through. It's probably 6.5 pounds, so it's on the heavier side, but not terribly. Reset is just straight out and back in. Do that again because it might have just been me. Nope, it just forces your finger right out. As soon as you let off on the pressure, it kicks you out. Nice audible kick, so you can know that it's reset, and then boom, right into the next shot. Manual safety is pretty decent. Clicks coming out, not really as much going in, but you can tell that it's gone in. So, not bad. Mag release is a little stiff. By a little stiff, I mean incredibly stiff. Could use a better one, or it just needs to be broken in. But it does eject the magazine pretty well. And considering that the inside of the frame has been Cerakoted or ceramic coated or whatever they're doing these days, and the magazine is just your plain Mech-Gar, this is for the GI style 1911, 7+1, not 8+1. It still ejects it really well. Alright, you know what time it is. We are going to disassemble it and take a look at it. To do that, it's in 1911. You need to drop the plunger. Let's see if it's actually, I didn't check. Half-length guide rod, not a full length. We like that. Go ahead and, actually I should have been able to tell. When you're looking at a 1911, you want to know if it's got a full-length guide rod. If the plunger is solid like this, it does not have a full-length guide rod. If it's got a hole in it, it's got a full-length guide rod. Very stiff, so I'm going to use the edge of the magazine. On the front, you need to be careful. You don't want to scratch anything. Push it down. Slide your bushing over, and then be careful. If you let this go, that son of a gun will launch to space. Yes, it will go through your roof, it will go through your walls, it can go through anything. It's made of Russian components, my friend. Go ahead and slide your bushing over the other way and work it out. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Life of Boris. I like the accent. I've been doing a lot of Russian accents lately. Anywho, once you do that, you can go ahead and bring the slide back to the disassembly notch. You really want to be careful when you have a gun that has a painted finish like this or a custom finish, because scratching the slide with an idiot mark, while it would fit in on a Deadpool gun, is still not something you want to do, especially for a gun you don't own. Pop out your slide lock slide release and just push the top of the gun off. This does not have a drop safety. This has what are referred to as Series 70 internals. Yes, there has been a large number of arguments on my channel after saying what I assumed was a Series 70 setup, and I apologize. I will never do that again. To take the barrel out of a 1911, you take the link, which is normally like that, drop it down forward, and then you will push the barrel out. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. This is a coated barrel. Looks like they got a pretty good finish on it. Uses the standard Browning locking lugs and the tilting action with the swinging link. Taking a look at the slide, that finish goes all the way in. You can see where they cut some corners. They just did it where they think that you'll be able to see it, and then they taped off and just has the original black Parkerization. I will be completely honest with you, after taking a look at the Zig Duty version of the 1911, I would definitely do some finishing to these rails. I would take all of this off, all of this finish, even off the bottom, because you don't want any reason for it to catch on anything. But especially inside the frame rails, that can all go, doesn't need to be there. Overall though, the finish is pretty good. Frame, again, fully painted all the way down into the magwell, which is nice to see. And the finish, again, I would take it completely off of these rails. I would take emery cloth, 800 grit, 1000 grit, and probably go all the way up to like a 2000 grit, and especially off the feed ramp, because the one downside that I've learned after spending some time with one of these is, while it's a flared barrel, it is not a ramped barrel. So even though the feed ramp out of the slide or frame, I keep mixing the two up because it's like really late, but because the feed ramp comes up and there's a gap, right there. It might be hard to see on camera. This gun has a problem with some hollow points. If it's a very wide hollow point, it's going to jam up and not feed into the gun. So keep that in mind. It's great for ball rounds. Ball rounds, I've run through one and it ran very, very consistent and I was happy with it. But hollow points will choke on that kind of a barrel. Easy enough to fix. You just get a barrel replacement, kind of like you would with a Glock-ish, because you have to make sure that it's cut right and that the flare is the right angle to meet up with the frame. Other than that, it looks like it's put together well. The material feels pretty nice. I would put some skate tape on the front there and probably change the rear main spring housing. Although this one's not terrible, I just prefer a flat one. But yeah, that's your field stripped Deadpool 1911. Let's go ahead and put it back together. First thing we want to do is flip the slide over, take your barrel, put the link in the down position. Otherwise it could catch and slide it into the front of the slide. Go ahead and pop that back up. Before you do anything else, I would put this bushing in and go ahead and rotate it. As you can see, it needs to be on this side in order to keep everything together. You can go ahead and put your half-length guide rod. Isn't it so cute? You can put that in there, and then what I would do here is I would add your spring. You always want to pay attention. The open end, not the closed end. The open end goes onto the guide rod. The closed end will be held in by the plunger. We are not going to install the plunger yet because that would just make the guide rod go boink. We don't want to do that. But while holding it with the link in the down position, go ahead and put it onto the frame. This is why you want the spring, because it will hold the guide rod in place. Go ahead and put this back until you get to the insertion point for your slide lock. Go ahead and just push that in for right now. And then you can go ahead and line everything up. Pull it back to the mark here with the opening there. Being very careful, don't drag it across the frame or the slide. Get it started in the indent and just push it in. There you go. Sorry about nudging the camera. I'm doing this with my arm through the tripod. Once you do that, I would engage the safety, which will hold the slide in position so that you can go ahead and take the plunger. Take the plunge, guys, and start the bushing onto the plunger. Because of the edge of the plunger, you can do that without having to have aid. However, it's very tight, so I'm going to use a magazine to make sure that the plunger goes down far enough for the bushing to clear it. Once you do that, drop your safety, rack it a few times, and you're good to go. And by the way, guys, doing this is not going to break a gun. If that broke a gun, you have a bad gun. So to the person that left the comment saying, ha ha, cringe, you dropped a slide on an empty chamber, go back to gun school. The one thing you don't want to do, and I've done it in the past, and I apologize profusely to those of you that have watched that video, is I have released the hammer with the slide off a couple of times on other guns, and I deeply regret it because I didn't realize how bad you could damage your firearm. But there we are, reassembled. And that is the Deadpool 1911. Pretty cool piece, very interesting piece. It's nice to see a lot more companies doing niche guns like this. This is something that if you were to go out and pay to have somebody do the Cerakoting and then buy the grips and stuff, you'd spend a couple of $100 extra bucks on top of a regular gun, which is about what they're charging, and I think it actually came out really nice because they're the ones that did it. They have the equipment. You know, you can't guarantee that you can find somebody that can laser etch all this stuff in here and have it come out nice. I'm going to get out of here. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Come back for other videos. I do 2 videos a week minimum, including tech, guns, and hopefully once the lockdown and pandemic thing is under control, I can start doing cars and hunting for deals again. That's it. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll talk to you later.